So many of the decisions that Real Madrid have taken over the past 2 years have been guided by this absolute belief that Mbappe would join the club.
Let's move on to Kylian Mbappe then, who signed a new 3-year contract with Paris Saint-Germain. How on earth did PSG manage this, Adam, first of all? Although when I say how on earth did they manage this, it makes it sound, the way I phrase that question makes it sound like they're the plucky underdogs in all of this, which of course they're not.
No, they're not. I mean, what happened was everyone had come to expect that it was almost this inevitability that Kylian Mbappe would join Real Madrid. And that's mostly because it's the way that the Madrid media for the past 2 years has framed it. You know, Mbappe is going to go to Madrid. It's the biggest club in the world, probably going to be the biggest player in the world along with Haaland. Where else would he go? Why would he even dream of going somewhere else? And the reality is it's always been a bit more complicated than that. And there's been no point over the past 18 months where PSG have, you know, when you speak to them, have said, this is gone. This is something which we can't pull back. And, you know, they first thought they would get Mbappe signed up before the Euros last year. They thought it was pretty much done. They were told by his camp, you know, this is something we expect to happen. He then went to the Euros, and the suspicion at that time was he'll go to the Euros, score a few goals, drive up his value, get another 0 on the end of that contract, and stay at PSG. The problem was, the Euros went wrong for him. He didn't score a goal. He missed the crucial penalty against Switzerland, and France went out of the competition. And there was a backlash against him in France. I mean, the first game of PSG's season, he was actually booed by supporters, partially, I think, because of the contract dispute, partially because of his performances for France. You then had the situation last summer where Madrid came in very, very late in the window with a 160 million euros offer, which was turned down by PSG. And at the time, there was a huge amount of criticism saying, how can a club turn down 160 million for a player who could be leaving in 10 months for free? How can any club that runs sustainably turn that down? Madrid, there was then a bit of confusion because you had people in Madrid saying there's been a second offer and a third offer. And at PSG, they said those offers never formally arrived. So was there a case of, I suppose, Madrid trying to give the impression to Mbappe, look, we've done everything we can this summer in terms of transfer offers, but PSG just won't let you come. And therefore, we are in the driving seat next summer when it comes to making your mind up. We've shown we really, really want you, but we can't get that deal done with PSG. And at the same time, PSG signed Messi and a load of more players last summer, and they're thinking we'll go and have a real crack at the Champions League. And if we do that, even if Mbappe goes, it's been worth it. What happened is kind of the opposite. PSG collapsed in the Champions League. Madrid reached the final. You watch Madrid this season, it's like, you know, they've been really good. Do they need Mbappe? Yes, probably long term, but they've not been screaming for him in the way that PSG have been. Then over the last couple of weeks, it sounded like Madrid would get the deal done, but they never had it done.
One other thing on this, I mean, the sums are eye-watering, as you've mentioned. Does he have greater control over the club with this deal?
Well, certainly the suggestions in Spain are that he's basically been handed the keys to the kingdom at PSG in terms of coaches and signings and things like that. PSG are pushing back very hard on that, as you would expect them to, because it's not something they would want people to know if it's true. I think it's probably somewhere in between. If you have an employee that you really, really value to your business and that is key to your business, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong in having conversations with that employee every so often about, you know, we're thinking about this guy as a manager. Do you think that's a good idea? I think that's different to Kylian Mbappe has decided that Zinedine Zidane should be the next PSG manager. So I think there's probably like a real life aspect somewhere in between that makes a bit more sense. PSG are also having a real clear out this summer. Mauricio Pochettino is likely to leave. Sporting director Leonardo is on his way out. The big changes in things, you know, marketing department, communications department, women's team, they want to try and change the culture of the club. Whether you can change the culture of the club after, you know, the deal that they've just done over this weekend is another debate entirely. And, we know the president, Nasser Al-Khelaifi, is very hands-on. Whether that's healthy or not, we're not quite sure. But there are going to be big changes. Be a lot of people leaving the club, a bit like at Manchester United, and it's about, can they get the right people in to replace them?
Let's bring Dermot Corrigan into this, who covers Spanish football for The Athletic. Real Madrid are a bit pissed off, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're going through the 7 stages at the minute, from like surprise through grief to anger, and I'm not sure exactly where they're going to end up. But yeah, Madrid were sure. Like, one thing that Adam left off the very comprehensive rundown of how things played out is Mbappe himself saying back in October that he really wanted to join Madrid last summer, that the agreement was there. He was hoping that Paris Saint-Germain would accept the bids, whatever it was that Madrid had made for him. So from Madrid's point of view, they were sure that he wanted to come to play for them. Then, as the way the games went in February and March, Mbappe was the best player on the pitch, almost won it for Paris Saint-Germain, but Madrid, everything about their team, the club, the Bernabeu, everything that happened there, they thought that, how could he not want to come and join us? How could he stay in this kind of cold, gilded cage, is what they talk about it in Paris, that he gets loads of money but he's playing, Mets, and is that really going to fulfill him? So they were sure up until last week. Everybody you talked to around Madrid was sure that he's going to come. They didn't want to put too much pressure on. They were aware that, Macron, the French president, was calling Mbappe, that the emir of Qatar was getting involved, but they were still sure that he was going to come. Then just late last week, that confidence started to run out. And then by Friday, when he was at the Bernabeu for the game, everybody's pretty sure he wasn't going to come. So yeah, they're very, 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 very disappointed and upset. And it's hard for people in Madrid, especially at the club, or even for Madrid fans, to understand why he's going to stay. And that's why it comes out. It must be just for the money. But yeah, they're upset.
There's also a key dimension to this, in that so many of the decisions that Real Madrid have taken over the past 2 years have been guided by this absolute belief that Mbappe would join the club. So, and, we saw that with a lot of the players that they moved on last summer. They left themselves incredibly short in defence. I mean, they've turned out, I think, to be pretty good decisions, in terms of Varane being sold for decent money to Man United, Ramos doing absolutely nothing at PSG, bringing in, only Alaba in that position, and Camavinga. They've made huge money through sales, and it was all to go towards paying for Mbappe. At the same time, you've also had COVID hit and the stadium rebuilds. They've had a lot of costs to try and bring in. The biggest issue over the last few months has been Erling Haaland, who has gone to Manchester City, but there's a lot of people close to City who really feared that his number one choice this summer, if it was on the table, would have been Real Madrid. And Haaland had offers, from Bayern Munich, from Barcelona, from PSG, as you would expect. Liverpool made an inquiry, but with Real Madrid, if they weren't going to get Mbappe, they can't not get Haaland as well. This is Real Madrid, who get the best players in the world at the best moments. And what happened was, City were so fearful that if this went into the summer, that Madrid would make their move, that City acted really, really quickly to get it done. And at that stage, Madrid still thought they'd get Mbappe. And the ideal situation for Madrid has been, we get Mbappe this summer, and then Dortmund maybe keep Haaland for one more year, and then we get both of them within sort of 12 to 15 months. That was the ideal. I mean, it was on the front page of Marca around Christmas time, that that Real Madrid could get both these players, and for them to end up with neither of them is unfortunately a spectacular failure. And I think it also says something about the direction of European football, which is the whole of the discussion about the power of clubs such as Manchester City and PSG now to get these deals done. And if you speak to City, they'll say Haaland's not on any more than Kevin De Bruyne is on. PSG were very keen to point out that Real Madrid's offer, when you take into account image rights, signing fees, everything involved, they felt was fractionally higher than PSG's. I'd take that with a massive pinch of salt. But but there is a real debate here about, I suppose, which are the most attractive clubs in European football now for the best players in the world, and it looks like it's City and PSG.
Yeah, like Florentino would definitely agree with you about that, about how it's come down to the legacy clubs or the traditional clubs, as Madrid view themselves against the state-owned. The Super League comes into that as well. That a big, if you believe the argument from the Super League people and from Florentino, it's that we need to do something. UEFA are unable to stop Man City and stop Paris Saint-Germain. And, you know, you look at the decisions when UEFA have tried to come in and sanction City, and Paris Saint-Germain hasn't gone too well. Ceferin is a big power broker at UEFA now as well. And on just the Mbappe, for Florentino himself, it's been so personalized that he was the man who was going to bring Mbappe to Madrid. They were going to rebuild the stadium. It's going to be the best stadium in the world, the glitziest stadium. It's going to have the biggest star, Mbappe. And Mbappe is going to bring in the sponsors. He's going to bring extra VIPs to the games. He's going to, you know, revolutionize, bring Madrid back to where they believe that they should be, which is as the most attractive place, the biggest club in the world. And missing out on him, you know, maybe they would have gone for Haaland if Mbappe had, you know, re-signed for Paris Saint-Germain back in January. I assume Madrid would have went all in for Haaland. They would have tried everything they could possibly do to get him to come. They weren't even that disappointed when he signed for City. It was kind of like, okay, you know, we don't have to worry about that now. It kind of showed Mbappe that you're our man. We're going all in for you. We know that you want to come to visit us or to come and stay here, so we're not even that worried about missing out on Haaland. Now it just gets extra embarrassing and extra difficult for them, and it's going to be super interesting to see how they react.